I don't know you, but I don't think you'll be proud of me. First thing that welcomed me to your homeland wasn't a warm embrace. It was a heat wave so brutal that I thought I'll evaporate on the spot. But my flight isn't for another week, and somehow the scent of street food drifting through the air convinced me to wander a little further. Street after street, something unexpected happened. For the first time in my life, I felt a tiny thread of connection to my roots. Not a strong one, not one that came naturally, but it was there, fragile and stubborn. I think you'll be relieved to hear that. I couldn't help but wonder, if you hadn't left for Malaysia decades ago, would these streets have been my everyday backdrop? Would the twists and turns of this city feel like an extension of me? And would I have been familiar with every nook and cranny like the back of my hand, instead of them being something I had to learn online or on the spot as I wander and get myself lost? I imagine you might be disappointed to see how much of me doesn't fit the mold you once knew. I'm not quite Chinese enough, and I'm never going to be. I love Malaysia for its mix of colors and chaos, the West for its music and words, Korea for its style and fashion, and Japan for its animation and creativity, and the Chinese for its unwavering diligence and brutal palace wars of old. I speak my mind, loudly, unapologetically, when a proper Chinese girl was expected to stay quiet, to bend instead of break. I have my family to thank for that, especially my parents. I'm lucky. I never had to face the bias that said, you can't do this because you're a girl. I'm grateful my mother taught me how to be a warrior, and my father who treated me like a princess, even when I was far from graceful, more often crashing through life than gliding. With life's hurdles, I continue believing I could be strong and soft at the same time. Growing up, I often felt trapped between cultures. Not Malaysian enough, not Chinese enough, definitely not Western enough, not Malaysian enough, and not Chinese enough. Just stuck somewhere in the middle, wondering if belonging was something I'll ever get to feel in this lifetime. And for the longest time, I resented it. I thought culture was a box meant to suffocate me, not something to be proud of. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe culture isn't about fitting perfectly into a mold of who you're supposed to be just because you were born into a particular social group. Maybe it's about carrying pieces of the past with you and honoring them in the best way you can, even if sometimes you had to break parts of your roots to build yourself. Maybe you wouldn't be proud that I only understand fragments of our language, but maybe you'll be proud that I write my Chinese name in proud, complicated strokes. Maybe you'll disapprove of my English name, one that you never would have considered or probably wouldn't be able to pronounce, but maybe you'll love the stories that I tell in that language. I don't know the names of every traditional dish of ours, but my favorite foods still carry the taste of my Chinese heritage. I drink Chinese tea, adore the elegance of our traditional clothing, even if I refuse to accept the outdated roles once placed on Chinese girls. Maybe I'm not the descendant you imagined, but I'm here, and in my own way, I'm searching for traces of you. If you had stayed, would I have survived the fierce competitiveness that robs so many of their sleep here? Would I still have become a lecturer, a writer, bold enough to live a creative life? Or to even pick up the camera to admire myself? Would I have met the people who shaped me, learned the lessons that softened and strengthened me, or spoken the words that only I was meant to say? I probably wouldn't have discovered my favorite flavors or the people I've come to love so fiercely. Maybe I would have dreamed different dreams. Dreams built of practicality and numbers instead of imaginations and stories. Maybe I would have been good at mathematics, at logic, at calculations instead of creativity and language. Maybe my fingers would be familiar with the strings or keys of an instrument, and maybe I would have shut off my emotions entirely and just move on with life's stampede. But one thing's for certain, I would have spoken in a very different accent, and I probably would only know just one language. I have no idea who each of you were. No one in the family kept records, no names passed down, no stories told, no pictures tucked in precious family albums that are falling apart. Perhaps you were a crafty businessman, or a woman who cried silent, endless tears. Maybe a boy with ground-shaking dreams, or a girl who once tried to run away. An auntie who lost the love of her life to war, or a grandfather whose descendants no longer visit. An uncle who never found what he was talented at, or a grandmother who fostered children who weren't her flesh and blood. I'll never know for sure, but I know you existed, and I know that I am the proof of your lost legacy, the good and the bad. Maybe that's why I feel the need to record my life, to write it down, to capture it in the ways I know how, so that I wouldn't be one of the forgotten, so that my children and their children after them will know what it felt like to wander the streets I once walked, to taste the foods I once loved, and to catch a glimpse of the life I used to live and the thoughts I have to share. So that even if time erases the names, my name, the memories can still live on. I don't know your names, I don't know your stories, but I know you lived, and because you lived, I get to walk these streets, breathe this air, and wonder about the pieces of you I still carry inside me. Maybe I'm not what you imagine, maybe you wouldn't understand me at all, but I'm here. I remember you, even if I don't know you. And in my own way, I'm home, and I hope you'll welcome me.